Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and Arsenal podcast. I'm Gooner Gimli and tonight I'll be joined by... First up, joining me all the way from Spain, it's our angry Venezuelan John. Hello, John.
Hola. How you doing? Nice to have you back.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be back.
The aliens dropped you back off.
Yeah, but they're coming to pick me up at the end of this podcast, so...
Well, they can fuck off.
How are you this week anyway? Are you still reeling at the sentiment of you being plastic or being told that you're plastic?
Yes, apparently I'm the most plastic person on the face of Twitter. You know, idiots are ignored until they're not.
Blocked until further notice?
No, not blocked, just ignored for the time being.
Well, that's the way we like it. Right. Next up, our metal-loving, tatted-up, Wenger in the making, it's Kris Carpenter. Hello, Kris.
Hello again, welcome back.
Thank you. And how's life treating you this week?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm still here. I'm still ugly and still hairy and, yeah, about to be in a camp, well, about to go camping at a festival for 3 days, so I shall have to have a really good time in the shower this evening because I won't be able to have one for 3 days after this. So.
And what festival is it you're going to, just in case there are any groupies there?
Well, obviously, Sonosphere in Nebworth here in the UK. So I shall be taking in the delightful world of heavy metal. Metallica and Iron Maiden are my particular highlights. So if I don't come back alive, it's been fun knowing you all.
Oh, Metallica.
Boom.
And that's another story.
Indeed.
Right, and finally, carrying his love for the French national team onto the podcast, it's our one and only French John. Hello, John.
Hello, Gimli. Nice to have you back.
Thank you very much. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm very tired because I don't have enough sleep because of the World Cup. But I think it's quite a good deal. no sleep, but a very, very good World Cup.
Yeah, well, I think you've got a few days now, haven't you, until the next lot of matches?
Yeah, 2 days of sleep and not talking about the World Cup.
Yeah, just go into hibernation for the next couple of days and just get yourself fit and firing for the next round. Right then, I understand that at the end of the last podcast, you were half-time in Mexico, Netherlands?
Yes.
So, who wants to kick us off with that one?
Kris, as he knows about Ochoa a little bit more than we do.
Okay. He had another stormer, didn't he, Ochoa? Really, really good goalkeeper. And it's kind of funny, really, because when you see a player that, there's been quite a few this World Cup where you've had players that don't necessarily or haven't necessarily ripped up any trees for their clubs suddenly come together in their national sides and look like world beaters. And I know me and John had a little chuckle after the first performance that Ochoa had in the group stages in the Brazil game. We said how long would it take before he was linked with Arsenal, and sure enough, it took a matter of hours before that was all over the internet. But no, he had a stormer, and Mexico as a team were really, really unlucky. They obviously they took the lead, and then some controversial incidents happened in the last 3 minutes. It probably was a penalty on the dying swan of Robin, but he's just such an unlikable character, and that automatically you kind of dislike the Dutch in a weird way just because of him. Well, not just because of him.
No, I was going to say not just because of
someone
him.
else as
well. You have to take into account the Kutch Dunt.
Yes, there's a brilliant video. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but I'll have to try and find the link. There's a Mexican fan, I think it's on YouTube, who runs outside the ground, and as the Dutch players are trying to leave the car park, and he finds Van Persie in the car, and I think he thinks it's Robin, and he's just jumping up and down and smashing the bonnet of the car, going, "Oh, you're a cheat, you're a disgrace, we hate you." And he's screaming at this car. It's well worth looking up. No, he's not wrong. But he thought it was Robin, but I think it was Van Persie in the car. But
the thing is, right, and the way I look at Robin, or what's come out afterwards, didn't he come out and apologise for diving earlier in the game?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh mate, you're just such a prick.
Yeah.
Why the hell? And let's be honest, if you look at those two teams on paper, there's not many people that would have Mexico to win that game. They were pretty much under the cosh. They were 1-0 down, and they ran out of ideas. For me, the major turning point in that game is when they got hauled off for the water break. And it's like, Holland regrouped, or should I say, I'm going to get strung up for that. The Netherlands regrouped from that point, and they just went on to steal it. To be honest with you, I actually wanted Mexico to win.
Yeah, me too.
We all did.
John, let's have your thoughts on this one.
Well, I think it was, if you're a Mexican fan, wow, heartbroken. It looked like they were going to pull it off, and I think between the water break and Huntelaar coming on, and then kind of change the dynamics, and Robin throwing himself about everywhere. It's just heartbreak. That's the only thing that you can feel for them, and Ochoa couldn't make enough saves. I mean, as well as it was, as well as he did, he's just came up a little short. The Snyder strike, and obviously with the penalty, which I think we all were hoping that he would, pull one last rabbit out of his bag, but it just wasn't meant to be. Heartbreak.
To touch on what John just said about Ochoa, I didn't really answer the question you had on him. I watched him quite a lot, as maybe John has, in League One last year, and the situation with him basically is he's a free agent. He left Ajaccio when they went down at the end of this season. Basically, he was one of their top earners. They've obviously now gone down to League Two, so he's free to negotiate with anyone he likes as of the 1st of July. So as of now, I think his style probably suits. He's definitely a first choice goalkeeper, so I hate to disappoint any Arsenal fans listening to this hoping we'll sign him, but unless you want him over Szczesny, I don't think he'll even be considered, because he's at the age where he's first choice.
If you watch League One Team Ajaccio last year, you saw he can be good. He can be very good, but he can be very bad too. He's not consistent at all, so I don't think he will go to a big team.
I think it depends on who. I think with the trouble that you've got is that classic sort of thing of Ochoa was probably Ajaccio's best player, and the trouble is he had a defence in front of him that could not keep a clean sheet for Toffee. They were really poor defensively, so I think he's the sort of goalkeeper that will probably suit the Spanish league for one, or if not maybe even the German league, where he'll need a sort of if he has a better defence in front of him, or at least an organised defence as Mexico have got, he shines. And I agree with what John said there. He is the sort of goalkeeper that will pull out a couple of worldies, but occasionally he'll drop a cross or he'll get caught under it.
Can I have your opinion on something? I thought a lot of his save, maybe 90%, yes, was on him. It wasn't really big save, football goalkeeper save, more on ball goalkeeper. Reaction.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
So it's not easy to stop, but it's not that hard,
I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper, but he's not. I agree with John. He's not elite, but he'll definitely. I suppose the point to come of it is I don't think we'll see him at Arsenal at all. I think he'll probably end up first choice in Spain or Germany. I would, if I had to put money on it.
Right, then we'll move on to the next game, and this one was Costa Rica v Greece. It finished 1-1 at full time, and I think Costa Rica had, a pretty good game. The Greeks had a man sent off, and unfortunately, or fortunately for those Costa Rica fans among us, they went on to win 5-3 on penalties. So Joel Campbell, we'll start with him. As the Arsenal guy and the man that's ripped up trees the whole tournament, just how good is he? French John.
Versus Greece, it wasn't that good. But during its 2 or 3 first game, it was very, very impressive. We talked about it, I think, with Kris and John in the first World Cup pod, or the second one, I don't know. And he's quite impressive. And he has something. When he has the ball on his feet, you can imagine something happen. It's not like you will not say, nah, he won't do anything. You can imagine something where it's a little bit magic when he has the ball in his feet.
And people are already talking about other clubs coming in, and I see that there's a few transfer rumours today that Joel Campbell might not even get the chance to slip on an Arsenal shirt. The price quoted there was 16 million, which is, in my opinion, he might have done well at the World Cup, but Jesus, that's a hell of a price. So, John, do you think he's good enough to actually play for Arsenal next season?
Well, I mean, going back to his performance in this match, I'm going to disagree with John. I thought he did very well, considering that we saw a different side of his game. It was more physical, it was more hold-up play, and, you know, a lot of us have seen him, you know, at Betis or Lorient, and it's been more of a wide play from the wings. But if you remember from Saprissa, he was signed as a striker up top. And we saw more of that in this match, especially after the red card, that he was holding up play, trying to invite his, giving time for his players to come in and kind of link up, and try to, you know, go for the match win. But as far as being good enough, listen, we're always in need of quality bodies out wide. Our wide players tend to have issues with injuries. And I think he's shown that he can add both, you know, depth and quality, both out wide and up top.
And as a fan of Yaya Sanogo, which you are, John, because you've spoken relatively highly of him on this podcast before, where do you think the similarities lie between the two? And do you think Joel Campbell, if he played next season, would be ahead of Yaya Sanogo in the pecking order?
Oh, absolutely. I think Yaya's probably off, you know, to go on loan if you look at the names that we're being linked with. You know, he's going to need a couple of years or a year at least on loan to get his feet underneath him. I mean, he had been out for 18 months, I think it was, prior to us signing him with injury. And, you know, coming back, they kept him out to, you know, put some weight on him. Listen, like we've discussed before, he's a bull in a china shop. You kind of throw him out there and things happen just because he's running around. He needs to pull that coordination together. So I loan him out and bringing in Campbell. That's, you know, a commodity for us. You know, it's, you know, a net spend of zero for quality and depth. And, you know, just that allows us to focus on other areas of that need reinforcing.
Very true. Kris, we'll go to you next. And what I wanted to know was the Costa Rica team are fairly, how do I put it, underrated in terms of how they've done in the tournament. How far do you think they can go? And do you really think they have it in the locker to beat the Netherlands?
No, is the first thing to say to that. I don't think they do, and don't get it wrong, I don't particularly rate the Dutch side personally either. Haven't really since their squad was announced, but I think where Costa Rica have done well is that the spirit they've had and the belief they've had from the minute the group was drawn. All the natives sort of in their own country, they all said, well, we're going through, who's going to come through with us? And they never had a doubt that they would do that. And I think their system has provided teams with a sort of a real quandary as to how to get around it. The three centre-halves, the two wing-backs, and Joel Campbell obviously being a man who not a lot of people would have known a lot about, whereas if you look at the Italians and the Uruguayans, everyone could pick out that Pirlo for Italy and Suarez for Uruguay were the two to pick out as the danger men. So I think the element of surprise has got them as far as they have, particularly in the first game, where I don't think Uruguay had any clue what hit them, especially when they went in front. So there's a team ethic there, and there's a real sort of desire to win for each other. But I do think they'll probably come up short against the Dutch. They haven't really played anyone brilliant yet. They played a poor England side. They played in my opinion, a poor Uruguay side. And even the Italian side not brilliant. And as for Greece, well, I mean, they're limited. So I think sadly that the adventure will come to an end against the Dutch. I can't see them keeping the Dutch forwards out. That's the biggest problem they're going to have. But they've been refreshing.
It's nice to see their plucky performances at this World Cup, and I think they definitely have been the surprise package.
A quick note on Costa Rica: their goalkeeper, Keylor Navas, is another keeper having a blinder of a tournament to add to all the rest. His buyout clause is €8.25 million, and it looks like there was talk here anyway that he might be headed to Madrid.
The same reports there was reports in the UK today about Atletico Madrid turning down a bid. Getafe is it he plays for at the moment? Levante, sorry. They turned down a bid of €6 million plus Leo Batistao. They've turned that bid down and said that his valuation comes to more than double that. So I don't know if you can read much into that, but Atletico obviously need a goalkeeper with Courtois heading back. So
there's a release clause, so they can evaluate him at what they want. But if the player wants to go and he wants to go to a big team, all they have to do is dump up that $8.5 million and he's off.
Yeah, he'll go, won't he? He'll go.
Mm. Right then, we'll fire through these, and the next match we've got to cover is France v Germany, and that was 2-0 to France on the day. French John. Being as you're such an admirer of the French national team, would you like to talk us through this one?
Oh yeah, it was a very good game. Nigeria wasn't poor. They had some good occasion, and Koscielny finally had a good game with France, because I think I told you or someone on the pod in France we don't like Koscielny. I don't know why. We prefer Sacco. The guy in the bench at Liverpool. I don't know why. But I don't know. France wasn't that good, but they won. I mean, a lot of team won without being really good. Brazil, Germany, Dutch, so why not France?
No, exactly. I think probably throughout the tournament, I would consider the French to have played the best football, I think. Anyone disagree with me on that one?
The problem is they play their best football versus 10 men and not 11. And so it's really difficult to judge how good they were, because always 11 versus 10.
Very true. John, do you agree with that? Do you think the French have played the best football this tournament so far?
I think the best team in the tournament so far has been Colombia.
That's very true. That's very true.
By leaps and bounds. But imagine how scary that thought is of a Falcao in that Colombia team right now with that form. Listen, France, just like, we talked about the Costa Rica team, they can only beat what's in front of them. So, you have to perform when the opportunities are given, and they've taken advantage of those opportunities. I don't think we can fault them for that. They've been sublime at times, and then at other times, they just look a step off. Passes just, maybe a couple yards too long, or a yard behind the player. But it's been just the nuances of the game that have, stopped them from performing, exemplary. And I thought they weren't bad in that Nigeria game. I thought Nigeria was good to give them the kind of match that they did.
I think. No, go on.
What did you thought of Valbuena? The little guy on the right. Kris, maybe?
Valbuena's a good player. About talk of him at Arsenal, we have enough.
No, I don't want him. No. Stop. I don't want him. But just he had a very, very, very poor season with Marseille. But with France, he's another player. It's so weird.
He's a very good player. But then, like you said, you go back to the club team, and it's not the same. But at the same time, John, the team assembled at Marseille aren't world beaters either. So he's not playing with Benzema and Pogba and all those players as well.
And before we go into the possible players we might sign from that French team, I want to go over to Kris and ask you, Kris. We saw Giroud play. We saw Koscielny play. How did the Arsenal boys get on?
Yeah, like John said, for some strange reason, the French prefer Mohamed. I can't do anything productively good at Liverpool, Sacco. Over Koscielny, I can't really understand that myself. I suppose they see it from a different point of view, but I thought Kros was really good. He pretty much he dealt with the pace of Emenike really well. I suppose saying he's brave is obvious because he's always brave, but he did show a lot of leadership in the defensive line. And as far as Giroud goes, I think he had one of those days really. He was a little bit unlucky. He had the a couple of knockdowns that he didn't sort of get on the end of, and I think he had the one shot that was sort of off target. But his work rate you can never fault. I know there was one particular point where he got an absolute earful. I think it's from Pogba for not making a run into the space that they expected him to be in. But that's not really his style. There's a lot of talk in France of why they're playing Giroud ahead of Benzema in that position, and you're kind of dragging Benzema out to the left. But I'd like to see France go with the two up top together. Sadly, I don't think they will, because the Germans are up next for them. But no, I thought Giroud did well, and he seems to be one of these players that seems to play better in the sunshine, and he looks refreshed, which can only be a good thing ahead of the season for us, because obviously he looked knackered at the end of our season. So hopefully this will give him the springboard confidence-wise to come back to us, the same sort of player.
And just to move on briefly from that, I know you boys are chatting in front of me and saying about the red card debates that they've had in pretty much every game. John, French John, would you like to touch on that for us?
Yeah, it's a big debate here, because in the first game Pogba should have a red card, a straight one. Sacco in the third game, I think, with the elbow, and Matuidi, a very, very violent tackle. It wasn't intentional, but it really was a big one. So the debate here is in France. Maybe Brazil want to beat us in Brazil, because we beat them in France in final in 98. So I don't know. What do you think?
John, we'll get your response.
More on the last match, because it's fresher in our minds after all this football. That Matuidi challenge was a shocker, wasn't it? He got stretchered off. The Nigerian player got stretchered off. Dom, our in-house physio, said that it was likely ligament damage or a bone break. So
no, finally just 2 weeks and he'll play.
Really?
Again. Yeah.
Lucky from first.
Lucky, yes.
Yeah, from first look, it could have been really, really bad. Yeah, it was definitely a red card there. Nobody could have complained.
No, definitely not. Right then, what else do we need to touch on this one? That's right, the transfers. 3 players I think we really need to talk about: De Griezmann, Schneiderlin, and the last one I've got here is Debuchy. Which one do we start with? We'll start with Debuchy, and over to you, Kris. Now, this one apparently coming out is 12 million, and it's a done deal. Can you give us any more information on that, and Schneiderlin as a player for the people that might not have seen any Southampton games this season?
Yeah, sure. Information-wise, I'm probably as much in the dark as everyone else. I certainly don't have any inside moles on this one, but all the reports in the UK that I've read, pretty much what you've just said there, the Debuchy, the latest talk that I heard this evening was that the deal has pretty much been done, and it will be announced when France do leave the competition, whether they, however far they get. I'm not really surprised. I'll be honest, I'm not exactly bowled over by it. I think Debuchy's decent. My main concern really is the age, and I know that's probably a weird thing to say, but I'm quite a fan of keeping a defence together. And by that I mean when you've got sort of youngsters in Kieran Gibbs and Carl Jenkinson as your 2 fullbacks, I would be more keen on us getting somebody that's going to be of Kieran Gibbs' age to start on the opposite side. Whereas I think in signing Debuchy, really all we're doing is getting another player like Monreal, who is probably at the peak of his career and probably needs to be playing games every single week. And I'm not convinced by him really. I think what he's done at Newcastle was all right, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. I'll reserve judgment, but I would rather that we brought in somebody a bit younger who's a bit more long term, that could sort of step in, as I say, on a basis like Kieran Gibbs has. As for Morgan Schneiderlin, again, if I'm honest, I'm not convinced. That's probably a bit controversial because I know a lot of people are jumping around like we've won the World Cup talking about it, but I just think that if you're gonna if you the Premier League ready element is there, and as you said previously, for our foreign listeners, his Premier League form was fantastic, and he certainly did stand out in the Premier League for Southampton last year, and he is clearly a quality player. I just wonder if it's got a little bit of an element of that kind of bargain basement about it again. The price tag being talked about is sort of anywhere between 15 and 18 million. And I just wonder if you could spend
a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It is. And let's not forget, however good a performer he was last year, for Southampton, that's the key part of this sentence, for Southampton. Same with Debuchy for Newcastle. I just can't help but wonder if we should be aiming a little bit higher, and if the money's there, why are we not going to Bayern Munich and asking about Javi Martinez? Why are we not looking at Lars Bender? It just feels a little bit like that we're aiming a little bit lower still, and that's not a knock on the manager or his plans. I just wonder if he's the right type of signing, but we shall see, I guess.
John, did I hear you trying to?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, so I'll let Kris finish. But Kris, my question is this: how do you know we didn't go to Bayern, and they looked at Herrera coming from Bilbao for 30 for for the ridiculous amount that he went to United, 30 million, and then say, well, if Ander Herrera is worth 30 million, how much is Javi Martinez worth? Yeah. And slapped a 55 million price tag on him and said, he can go, but you have to pay this. So, Schneiderlin is, let me put this question to you. You you put your starting 11 out tomorrow, and your choices for defensive midfielder are Flamini, Arteta, or Schneiderlin. It's a step up.
Yeah. I agree with you there.
But is it a big enough step up?
I've got a slightly controversial, I don't know if it's controversial. I've got a slightly weird view on this defensive midfield thing. You quite rightly said there, John, for example, let's just take Javi Martinez. If Bayern Munich said to us, okay, yeah, he's available for, as you say, 30 million, I would rather we spend that 30 million on that crucial position and that player that we need. If we're not going to spend that much money, I wouldn't be against trying to put someone like a Jack Wilshere into that position.
Because the thing is that he's not going to be 30 million. He's going to be 55 million, 50 million. He's going to be around that. Do you really think it may
be that much?
But they paid 45 million euros for him on his release clause. Yeah. And he's shown what kind of player he is, where he can slot into a center back position or a defensive midfielder position. So, like I said, if Herrera is worth 30, how much, would a Martinez cost?
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I'll hold my hands up. I mean, I've seen enough of Schneiderlin to know that he's a good player. He wouldn't get into the French national team if he wasn't. I'm just, all I'll say is I'm on the fence. I'm not 100% convinced, and I think it's an awful lot of money for a player that has had one good season. Well, he's been decent for a few years, but he's had the one breakthrough season at Southampton. But then I guess that's the going price. So I'll sit on the fence and just say, if he comes in, it's an extra body, and like you said earlier about Joel Campbell, it's another quality body, and I'm happy with that. There's just be a small part of me that wonders whether we could have got a bit better. That's all.
The way you think about that position is how I feel about the right back position.
Yeah,
which is, I understand the Debuchy signing, which is that you want to place your faith in that Jenkinson will somehow, exercise the defensive demons that he has, and that Bellerin coming behind him will be the player that everybody thinks he's going to be. Yeah. But I think that by signing Debuchy, we've closed ourselves off for a cheaper and better option in Aurier. And if this doesn't work out and Aurier goes on to do the things that we think he's going to do, we'll be kicking ourselves and we're going to look cunts in 2 or 3 years that we didn't take him for 8 million.
I'd rather get the Southampton lad. I think you're a fan, Gim Chambers.
Yes.
I think if you're going to go Premier League ready, and if you're going to go, because I just think if you got sort of a Chambers on one side and a Gibbs on the other, you're keeping that English core. And although English players have got a massive price tag, I don't think Chambers will cost you much more than 8 to 9 million personally, but that's just my thought.
So if someone had to go to you, Kris, and tell you Debuchy or Aurier, which one would you go for? Who
was that to, sorry?
You, Kris.
Oh, okay. Debuchy or Aurier?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be Aurier for me, but just for the record, I would probably not have either, based on, well,
Madness.
based on. I mean, I like Aurier, I really do, and I know John loves him, and we both talk regularly, haven't we, John, about how good a fit he would be for us long term. I just think that there are better options at a slightly more, I would say, like a sort of 25, 26-year-old option would fit my kind of comfort zone better than a player who's had a good World Cup and he was outstanding for Toulouse, but I'm not convinced yet. That's all. So, but if I had to choose between the two, I would go Aurier over Debuchy. Yeah.
Mm. And
it's
French...
weird. Nobody talked about the Debuchy red card. He has an attitude. He has a past of a lot of red cards.
Yeah.
He can't keep his mind. He's sometimes he goes crazy. And I think last season he took a 5-match ban. No.
The one thing that worries me with Debuchy is we were, again, there's no proof of this, but apparently we were offered him when Lille sold him the first time and we turned him down. So why are we now going back? So why? I mean, the only thing I can think is we're going back.
It was really cheap 2 years ago.
Exactly.
I think it was 6 or 7 million euros.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Now we're talking about 12 million pounds.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for Debuchy.
The only thing I can think is that Arsene Wenger wanted to see him in the Premier League first to get a feel for how good he would be. But watching him for Newcastle last year, I remain unconvinced.
Yeah, he had a very awful first half of the season. He was so bad, and the second part he was quite good, but I'm not convinced too. He has some problem. I'm not sure he knows how to defend. Plus offside, he's not very very good with that.
No, if he puts on an Arsenal shirt, I'll support him. I'm not throwing the guy into the bus. Like if he plays for us, then I'm behind whatever the manager decides. I'm just not convinced yet.
French John, we'll go to you next, and we'll continue the talking about Schneiderlin. How is he viewed in France? Because
nobody knows him in France. Yeah. I swear, we have some big journalists in France, football journalist. I think Pierre Ménès, yes, that's it. And it was like, who is he? I don't know him. Nobody knows him in France. Philippe Auclair, since 2 years, is lobbying about Schneiderlin in the French national team. A few French journalists too, but no, he's not really know. It's weird.
And we'll continue with our last sign-in, Antoine de Griezmann. Who would like to pipe up a little bit about this guy? John?
Well, wow. Okay. Here, listen. Griezmann is a great young player. He's a good young player. The problem is that everything statistically, performance-wise, apart from his few national team appearances, is all based in a league that's it's very wide open. It's less physical, and we all know that I think that we could chuck Danny on a pitch in La Liga and he could score 10 goals. So, it's does he have the technical ability? Yes. Does he have that flair that Wenger likes? Yes. But is he, will he physically be able to transfer that to the Premiership where we've seen better players than him come and fail just because of the rigors of the schedule? I don't know. And so, if Campbell has shown that he's done it versus, Italy, Uruguay, England, and Greece, which are all pretty tough physical teams. And if you look at the Greek league, they tend to be really physical. So I just think that if we have that healthy body coming in for nothing, we can focus and spend our money on a better caliber of player. than Griezmann.
That's fair enough. French John, what do you make of Griezmann?
I don't know. He's a young, very good player, but I don't know what to think about him. I just saw him with the French national team for 2 or 3 games. But he looks good, but I don't know if I don't think he will go to Arsenal first, and I don't even know if he'll move this summer. It looks not moving right now.
Mm.
No talked about him in France, about a move, about a transfer or anything.
That's very interesting. Kris, would you like to finish us off on this one?
Griezmann, yeah, not convinced. I think weirdly the time that you could have got him, or the time that I'd have been happy for us to get him, has probably passed. I think if you were gonna spend some money on him, the time you would have got him would have been last January. Where he'd had the sort of good start of the season with Sociedad and was clearly sort of a player that was improving and on the up. And I think at that point you probably could have got him for sort of the £15 million mark, which, if you look at his age and the amount of talent that he could potentially have or has already got and could show in the coming years, that would have been the time to get him. Almost like when we got Jose Reyes, sort of, although it was big money at the time, he was bought as a long-term investment. And I think that's probably the time to have gotten him. Whereas now he's been at a World Cup, he's scored a goal. Well, it's kind of an own goal, but he's created and he's got minutes on the pitch for France. May well even have a big say in the coming games. I don't think Sociedad are going to let him go for anything less than 25 to 30 million, and I think we can spend that money on far better players than him.
Fantastic. Right then, this is the one that people have probably been waiting for the most. Germany v Algeria, and that ended up 2-1. So, John, we'll go to you. What did you make of this game?
Well, I thought it was a game that kind of surprised everybody, didn't it? Algeria came out and showed that they could be dangerous. Neuer playing that, we were talking about it before the pod, that sweeper role to cover for, the lack of pace on that German defense, kind of saved them a few times. I just think that Germany are lacking that, the spearhead to that attack, which is Klose. But, as Thomas said the other day, is he going to last 90 minutes? And in Brazil, with the weather being as it is, and his age, obviously, he's a super sub at best. And with Podolski, injured, their options were limited. But, let's talk about our guy, Ozil. He gets so much stick in the media about what he doesn't do that everybody kind of forgets all the stuff that he does do. If you look at the game, and his stats in the game, 94 touches, 88% pass accuracy. The countless, link-up plays and runs that kind of opened up Algeria that his teammates weren't able to finish. I thought it was fitting that he got the second goal, because he certainly deserved it. He was man of the match for me, for
I think
Germany.
I probably agree with you.
For Germany. So, I just think that, he's bulked up, hasn't he? That's one thing that we were talking about in the WhatsApp group. He looks bigger than when he got here from, or he got to Arsenal from Madrid. He looks a bigger player. He looks like he's put on weight and I think that's evident in the way that he's, I saw a couple of instances where he was able to brush off defenders where he wasn't able to do that prior to this year. So I'm liking what I'm seeing with him. Mertesacker, for all as great a defender he is, I think he's kind of being left out in the open with no Lamb to his right and no Homos to his left, and Boateng and Hawedes and Mustafi, running up the pitch, and it's kind of opened him up to some criticism because of his lack of pace. But I think that's a little bit unjustified, given the plug and play aspect of that German defense at the moment.
See, for me, I like the Germans, but I think the main problem with them is they lack a striker. They have like it's a bit like Arsenal. They have all this midfield talent, yet when it comes to actually finishing the move off, there is no one there. It does make you think, though, how good would the Germans be if they had a world-class striker, i.e. a Benzema, or dare I say it, the clutch done. Kris?
Well, they would. I don't know whether that sort of player or that sort of striker would fit their system, weirdly, but sort of just touching on the game, we said in the last pod, and I think myself and John were talking about it, I'd said if it was a close game, or if it was sort of 0-0 after 70 odd minutes, that it could end up being a lot tighter than most people thought, and so it proved to be, because the thing with the Germans is, like you just said, they've got all the tools to open teams up, and they've got so many wonderful creative players. Sometimes they do lack that striker that can run in behind, and like you say, how much better could they be with that player in the squad? Saying that, though, they did leave out the lad at Leverkusen, whose name completely escapes me, Kiesling, he's not quick, but he's the sort of player that would probably got a goal or two, and obviously they rely a little bit on Klose as more of a super sub. Ironically, probably the one striker that they miss is now manager of the USA. So that kind of striker is probably what they'd be looking for in the future. And I wonder if someone like a Draxler, I wonder if he'll end up being more of a forward than a winger. But then I suppose if you've got so many technicians like Ozil, Götze, Schweinsteiger, all these sort of players, I wonder if you put one of us three up front, if they're creating that many chances, then maybe they just think that they'll rely on whomever happens to pop up to finish the moves off rather than anything else.
Because they do rely very heavily on Thomas Muller to be their main finisher, and I think a lot of the time it does let them down, even though he is very prolific. Did I read somewhere that he scored something like 8 goals from 9 World Cup shots or something like that? So, he is good. The other thing that I wanted to touch on this game is actually how poor was Mario Götze? Was it just me believing that?
I was just about to ask you that.
John,
about to ask you that.
You go for it then.
I mean, he just runs into tunnels, doesn't he? He doesn't matter, doesn't matter where. It's like he doesn't have a head to see 2 steps in front of him or where the play is going. I'm very surprised that after the way he played at Dortmund and then at Bayern, that he wouldn't be sharper, I guess. And for all the hype behind the player, he's been less than stellar for me. I don't know, John. What do you think?
Götze is a number 10. Was number 10 with Dortmund and is with Bayern. No, he's not on the wing with his club, so it's quite difficult to change. If he was subbed by a Scholler who's not that good, it was quite funny to see him with a ball on his feet. But I don't know. But I'm not agree about Germany needed a closer up front. I'm a big fan of closer, but did you saw how many chances, big chances they had? The Algerian goalkeeper had such a good game, really impressive. Lam, Kraus, big shot at I don't know 20 meters. So
yeah,
I'm not sure, but Germany really need a pure striker. Miller is doing a very good job. Ozil can score if he want to shoot, because he doesn't looks like he likes to shoot. I don't know. I don't know what to think about them. It's quite hard. A lot of changes, but not very. It didn't look very confident on the pitch.
No. And Kris, what do we make of Lam being played out of position? Do you think the Germans suffered for that?
To a degree, yes. I can see why they're doing it. I think it's mainly because obviously it's worked for Bayern, playing him out of position. And the thing with Philipp Lahm is he's that good a footballer that he can pretty much play anywhere across the pitch and he still looks class. But the problem you've got is that you're essentially taking a player out of a natural position to accommodate him into a position that is not his best, which to me seems a little bit strange. Whether Jogi Löw is sort of trying to make it work in the same way and play the same sort of football Bayern Munich do, possibly, but I don't think it's really working. He's definitely, well, arguably the best right back in the world, so why you would move him out of that position is strange, unless he feels that the players he's got can't fill the position that Lahm is, which again, if you look at the amount of talent the German midfielder's got, seems a bit of a strange one to me. So, yeah, I think they are suffering, and I've got a funny feeling you'll see Lahm back at right back for the France game in a couple of days' time.
They don't have any right back. They'll have to put Lahm as the right back, and maybe Kedira plus Schweinsteiger in the midfield with Kraus behind them. I don't know.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on to the next game then. This one, the thriller that it was, fresh in the memory as well. Argentina v Switzerland. Argentina went on to win it 1-0. Di Maria, who had a shocker, went on to score the actual winning goal. John, what was your thoughts on this?
Well, Argentina, they flatter to deceive with all the names that they have on that side. Higuain is Higuain. I mean, anybody that's listened to this pod for the last year, anybody that reads my blogs knows what I think of Higuain. And it's just another example. He disappears when it counts. You know, he's a flat track bully. And when you show him any kind of pressure, he wilts. So it was all down to the wingers and the midfield to try to do something. And, you know, after, you know, full time and nearly all of extra time, just the class of Messi and Di Maria, you know, shone through. But like you said, Di Maria was having, I wouldn't say a shocker. He was just having one of those games where his last decision was bad until the goal. He shot a lot of times when he should have passed. You know, he passed a lot of times where maybe he could have had a better shot. You know, he would have been better to shoot at goal, than that, you know, we were talking about it before the pod, that Rabona that he tried on the cross that went over the bar. It was just silly decisions at the last second. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they got that, they got the goal, they got the win, but it wasn't, before a scare on the other side with that header that went off the post.
Yeah. And French John, have Argentina really flattered to deceive this World Cup? I mean, have they been poor? Have they been unlucky? Or, you know, have they just fallen short?
They've been very lucky, not unlucky. I'm not impressed by Argentina. I don't know why. They're not that good. I'll have a question later about that, but not right now. And Switzerland was very impressive. At halftime, they had, I think, 2 or 3 big changes, but the rematch is quite young, and Xhaka also had a big shot. I don't know. It's difficult. I was with a Swiss friend during the game. Oh, he really thought they could do it, but no, Argentina is not that good. They're really lucky. Yes, the last head at the last minute of the game. Oh boy, what a end!
Definitely so. And Kris, the other question I wanted to ask is, how much do you think Argentina rely on Lionel Messi? Hugely. I think it's very difficult when you've got a player that is clearly so much better than the majority of the team. You've seen it with Portugal. You see it with Messi, even at sort of at club level. You see the reliance on a player of that ability. Agree with John. With what John said, when you've got an out of form Higuain, you've got a clearly not fit Sergio Aguero.
I'm quite a big fan of Rodrigo Palacio. In fact, I thought he changed the game for Argentina in the positive yesterday, the Inter Milan forward, but he's never really been given a clear run at it. Oddly, the one player they
minus his hairstyle.
Minus his hairstyle, yeah, the Jedi. Oddly, the one player they probably could have done with is Carlos Tevez, but the manager is not a fan, hence why he's not been in his squad. So I think when you put all those elements together, and then you realise that you've arguably got the best player in the world in your side, subconsciously, I guess you're going to look to him for inspiration. Without Messi in that side yesterday, they don't get through. Simple as that. Or if they do, it's on penalties. Because without that sort of bit of genius to get him away from the tackle from, I think it was Shah, to set up that chance for Di Maria, I just don't think Argentina are scoring. The slightly odd thing about how they play is that their tactics don't seem to play to Messi's strengths. They put in something like 60 odd crosses yesterday. I think I saw a stat going around about it. And that's just not Messi's style. So it seems very strange that they rely on him so heavily, yet they don't particularly play to his strengths. It's almost like plan A, give the ball to Messi and he'll either score or set someone up. And beyond that, they do look a little bit like a team scratching for some kind of form and not really knowing which way to play it.
No, the thing about that team is that if you pressure that midfield and you isolate Higuain, they'll do nothing. And, a lot of, even though they won the Conan Bowl qualification going in, I mean, a team like Venezuela, go Venezuela, la vino tinto, we were able to beat them 1-0, just off pure midfield pressure. On a little side note, if I could have a chuckle real quick, speaking of Argentina, to reports here in Venezuela that Maradona is going to be the next national coach for Venezuela.
That'll be
my
word.
God help us.
Yes.
So, but yeah, going back to the game, Argentina is going to find it very hard to get results in this World Cup going forward, just because I think their defense can be gotten. And if you pressure that midfield, you're going to isolate Higuain. And anybody that's watched him play in Madrid and in Napoli know that you isolate Higuain with a little service, and the times that he's going to have to score, he'll be so frustrated by then that he'll squander them.
Mm. And I don't know what it seems like to you, French John, but they seem to have this array of striking talent in Messi and Higuain and who else was it they've got up front with that? Aguero.
Lavezzi too.
Yeah, Lavezzi too. They have so much possession of the ball, yet they seem so toothless. I mean, what would you put that down to?
I don't know. I think it's a question of profile. You have 3 striker on the pitch. You don't have winger. So I think lack of movement, and so they can develop a good football.
Mm. And finally, we'll end this one with a question to John. I'm sure many people are sat there listening to this, willing me to ask you, Di Maria. As someone that knows Spanish football, hasn't it come out this week that he could possibly be leaving Real Madrid? Now, where do Arsenal stand with signing him? Do we need him? Could we accommodate him?
El Fideo, the noodle, if for translated, that's his nickname. Di Maria, this is the thing about Madrid. 520 million euros they made last year in commercial money. It's rumored to go up to 585 million this year. They can buy whoever the fuck they want. So right now it's coming out that his name is being thrown about as a make weight for James and Falcao to come in. Falcao is almost a certainty to come in this summer to Madrid. Benzema re-signing. But then there's also reports, as I said, James and Vidal from Juve. It kind of leaves Di Maria, Khedira, those lot out in the cold. And do we have a chance to sign him? If we have, we have the money to do so. But we will have to wait the conclusion of the negotiations between Madrid and Monaco on Falcao and James before we know if he'll be available and how much he'll be available for.
See, that was going to be my next question. Do we have any kind of ballpark figure as to
around
how much
40 million euros?
Is it worth it? Is he worth that?
Well, I don't want to get ahead because we're going to talk about somebody else here in a little while. So maybe save that comparison for then.
Yes, of course. We've just got to get through Belgium v USA next, and then we'll be straight on that topic. Kris, we will move to Belgium v the USA, and as possibly the USA's biggest fan in England, you've got the Rocket Lollipop T-shirt and everything. I can almost feel, see the blushing from here. What did you make of the game?
Well, my views are probably going to be a bit different to most people's because I'm a little bit tainted. I thought it was Belgium were the better side. They had the more pressure. They had the more chances, but I think that masks to a certain extent who quote unquote deserves to go through or who's quote unquote unlucky. For the record, I thought the US were very unlucky. That they granted Belgium created a few chances and they had a lot of possession, but it's only so much and only so far that gets you. They didn't particularly impress me that much, if I'm honest. I don't even know how Marouane Fellaini gets a game. I don't even know how he gets in the squad, to be honest. I thought that was a really strange decision, and to leave him on was even stranger. I think Eden Hazard has got one of those complexes where he does it when he fancies and not a lot else. I'm a big fan of Dries Mertens, but I didn't think he did much last night.
Mertens.
And I didn't think Origi. I thought Origi merited the start, but I think ultimately, sort of as a young lad, the pressure sort of got to him. But to focus on the US a bit, I did sort of say again on the last pod, I thought this one would go the distance. I actually thought it might end up being penalties, but I certainly thought extra time. And let's not forget that they had a chance to win the game in the very last minute. And if that chance falls to Dempsey, then the game's over and everybody goes home. The one thing that really irritated me watching the game last night, and it really did irritate me, is I'm English and that's fine, and I've taken all sorts of stick for supporting another team, let alone America. But it really did my head in the sort of lack of brain power behind some people's sort of comments and tweets about how, isn't it great that the Americans finally learned that you don't pick up the ball and run with it, ha 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 ha. And it just kind of pissed me off because we spend a long time in this country in particular, in our little greenhouses looking out about how great we are at football and slagging off other nations when we're the ones that went out in the group stage, and yet a team that ultimately don't have that many talented players, but they have a togetherness, they have a work ethic, they have a manager that believes in them, and they have that sort of will to win and that desire to fight for each other. And that gets them this far. In Algeria, you could say the same. Costa Rica are still in the tournament and they've got the same. And I highlighted a tweet that Sid Lowe tweeted last night, which I thought summed it up brilliantly. And he simply said, one day the US will play a World Cup game without the rest of the world making smart-ass comments about them not finally getting football. And I thought that was a really poignant view, because a lot of people were very, very keen to sort of, in a sense, slag off the rise that football has got in the US as a result of this World Cup. So I wanted to just touch on that. And I thought overall it was a hair's breadth between them. And I do think Belgium will get taken apart by the Argentines, even if that's not particularly the popular view.
I think Belgium have been very similar to Argentina. They've had all this possession and they have dominated pretty much every game they've played in. Yet they've been shit.
Yeah.
Do you know
Come on, they weren't shit yesterday. They were at a good game, a lot of chances. Without a very, very, very good team award, they'll be winning 5-0, mate.
Oh no, I doubt that. Belgium.
No, if Tim Howard, who is now the Secretary of Defense for the United States, according to Wikipedia, if he wasn't in goal last night, that would easily been a 3-0, 4-0 result.
Or if Belgium learned how to shoot, because you can look at that from 2 points of view. And
they had 39 shots, 17 on target.
Yeah,
9 were blocked, 1 hit the woodwork.
All at Tim Howard. All the shots he saved were all straight at him.
Well, and we rave about Ochoa, but like John said, a lot of the shots were near Ochoa.
Yeah,
so is it now because it's USA? No, listen, I don't support the U.S. team, even though I grew up there. Venezuelan, that's my team. But I will tell you this: if you see the shots as far as pictures from across America, yesterday, you had Cowboy Stadium in Dallas half full, 45,000 people watching the game, and those shots were mimicked in every major city in the U.S. And you know, I tweeted a couple of tweets about the registered and unregistered football players in the U.S. 5 times that of the U.K. Obviously, with their population, it's going to be more, but 25 million people is nothing to sniff at. You add to that in 2016, the Copa America Centenario is going to go to the U.S., where the CONMEBOL teams are going there. So you're going to have the likes of Brazil, Argentina, Chile. Everybody from South America is going up there to add to Costa Rica and Mexico and the U.S. It's not a fad. It's not going away. People need to get over it and realize that if you don't, whether you like them or not, it's the best sporting nation in the world. Mm. And once that talent pool is tapped, the sky is the limit. Once they have that funding, the sky is the limit. So enjoy the ridicule while you can, and realize that they're not going away.
How is it possible to say USA was ridiculous during the World Cup? They were very, very good. Last World Cup, they were in a quarterfinal. You can't ignore.
They beat Spain in the Confederations Cup.
Yeah, you can't ignore them. It's impossible. They're very, very good.
And the thing is that the USA have got such a massive country. Like John said, if you tap the talent, if you put investment into the sport, you get it played in the schools, it doesn't take long before, with that amount of people, you find yourself an American Messi or an American Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, just genuinely talented footballers.
Or a ZLM.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, John, it won't be long before America are coming back. And not coming back, but that they are at the stage where they can compete and be considered a force with
who knew about Yedlin before last night?
Yeah, Julian Green is another one, the guy that got the goal. This guy there's a reason he's on.
He's famous. He's playing for Bayern Munich.
Exactly that, but he hasn't made his debut for Bayern Munich. But there's a reason why Bayern Munich have picked up a player of that ability. He's got tons of ability, and when obviously he's a young lad, but I was pleased for him last night because he got an opportunity to at least showcase in a brief moment what he's good at. And you know, as I say, granted I'm a little bit biased, but I just think it's a little bit rich for people to sit there and say, oh well, the USA didn't deserve it because they just defended the whole World Cup. So did Iran. So did Algeria. Pretty much play a defensive setup. They just play on the break. Greece, exactly. If it works, and if your tactics are that's how you have to play, then so be it. Uruguay are another team, you know, a massive world powerhouse, and they pretty much sat there and waited for teams to come at them and then tried to pick them off, and it didn't work.
Before we put a line underneath this match, I wanted to ask all three of you, how disappointing was Dempsey after being touted as, you know, obviously the captain of the team, and then being touted as the great American hope to get them, you know, far in this tournament? He was very disappointing last night.
Yes,
I thought he was unlucky. If I'm honest. I think there was a couple of chances, particularly the one with the brilliant free kick, which we have to mention, which was just genius, in the last minute, and it just got away from him. It almost got, and the first chance fell to his left foot. He had no time to readjust his position before hitting that shot, and yeah, okay, it wasn't his best performance, but I thought he was a little bit unlucky. I didn't think he was bad. And I have to upset you, Gim, actually, if I may, just for a second.
Oh, Jesus.
Romelu Lukaku, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I know everyone thinks that he's
assist and a goal.
Assist and a goal.
He's finally fit.
Oh, don't seriously.
He had an injury.
I'm going to tell you guys also something about Lukaku. After his goal, if you go back and look at him talking to the camera, he goes "Te quiero, papá" in Spanish.
Yeah, he said.
There's a lot of rumor that he's coming either to Atletico Madrid or Valencia.
Well, they're welcome to him because I wouldn't have him at Arsenal for all the tea in China. I don't think he's. I think he's one of these players that he's gonna sort of have a brief stint at a club, almost like Christian Benteke. He'll have a couple of decent seasons, and you say he turned the game last night. Well, I would have turned the game last night coming on as a fresh player with that much size, that much strength against a knackered defence.
What did you think of Kevin De Bruyne last night? 1 assist, 1 goal, huh?
Yeah, but again, another player that, don't get me wrong, I can't stand Mourinho. I think he's an absolute arrogant prick. But this is a guy, another player, Marin is another one. Mourinho doesn't rate because they're not top class players. And I think Lukaku's another one. And Lukaku's, his work rate is what's got him out of Chelsea because he doesn't work hard, and that's been proven.
But for me, that argument about Mourinho is completely sacked by the fact that he just signed Costa for 38 million.
Well, yeah, but then equally,
he said Mata.
I agree with John on that one. The Costa signing, it does strike me as a weird one, but let's not make any mistake. We all think it's a massive amount of money for an overrated footballer. If he comes in next season and scores 30 goals, you will have Arsenal fans all over Twitter going, "Why didn't we sign Costa?" So until we're proven right or wrong, it is all just opinions.
I'll say it now: he won't score more than 17 goals.
You heard it here first.
Oh, that's a bet.
One player I feel we should talk about, and we should be starting to wrap this up a little bit, fellas, is of course Alexis Sanchez. I know that we would get absolutely lynched, or I would get lynched if I hadn't put it in the notes, and I have. John, you are the man in Spain, and I do apologise to keep coming to you. But what's the word over there? Do we think that this one might actually happen?
Well, we've had our chatter on our WhatsApp group, and Kris has informed me that a couple of the things that I've said have been documented and ready for evidence. The word for well over a week, almost 2 weeks here, is that Di Maria was the name being thrown about for the Suarez deal, just because Sanchez has flat out refused to go to Liverpool. He prefers an Arsenal move. There's rumors that the deal might have already been accomplished prior to the World Cup. My feeling is everybody's got to understand that Barca pre-Cesc sale owed us 9 million euros. Post-Cesc sale owe us 14 million euros. It's not the 5.6 million pounds that was reported for the Cesc. It was 5 million euros. So they owe us 14 million euros.
Don't they owe us for Song as well?
They all of this is just like bits and bobs of different transfers that have accumulated. But the end result is 14 million euros. If you take that with the reported 25 million euro bid that was reported, lo and behold, it equals 40 million, which was the asking price for the player. And I just think that you have to look at that, not only that, but as well as the steam that this is picking up. BBC is now saying that the player prefers an Arsenal move, something that I said over a week ago. You got to look at Kike Marin, the lad, the journalist from France that said it for Telefoot, I think it was, John. There's just so much fire, so much smoke that it would be crazy to think that there is no fire. Is the deal done? I don't know. Do we have a chance to get it done? Absolutely. There's been a history between Arsenal and Barcelona to forgive debt in a deal getting done with Toral and Bellerin's fees being waived. So there is, we know that there is history there. So I think we have a great shot of signing Sanchez. As we alluded to earlier, talking about Di Maria, if you have to choose between the two, it's Sanchez all day. We saw the physicality aspect during the World Cup, and he just suits the Premiership a lot better, in my estimation. Anyway, I can be wrong, absolutely, but for me, it's Sanchez all day.
John, what do you say to the Arsenal fans that are out there being negative, going, "Oh, Sanchez scored 19 goals from 25 assists performances"? I mean, I don't know the figures. I know he did really, really well last year and got a numerous amount of assists.
He was the second leading scorer and the second leading assister in the Barcelona team last year.
Yes.
He has a 32% rate conversion, no?
Yeah, it's pretty high.
That's a lot.
Uh-huh.
So he's had a great World Cup, and off the back of that, his fee would have almost, well, not doubled as such, but his fee would have gone up. What would you say to the people saying, why would Barcelona want to sell a player of his caliber?
Because they're restructuring their team. Why would they sell Cesc? Cesc had the most assists, I think the third or fourth most goals, the second most appearances, the second most. Why would they sell Cesc? Xavi's moving. He's fucking off to Qatar. Why wouldn't they re-sign Valdez? Why is Puyol retiring? It's a transitional period, and all clubs go through that. And sometimes it's best to get the people out that aren't particularly happy. People that understand that there's kind of a tug of war right now in Barcelona behind the scenes between Neymar and Messi. And Sanchez has been rumored not to get along with Messi. So, he's looking for greener pastures. He thinks he can do better elsewhere. Given the cities that he's being offered, I think, we're the obvious choice. And the fact that the response was good with as far as his agent having met Wenger. There was some rumors about that. So all of this kind of started happening about 2 weeks ago. It's been kind of reported here. The UK outlets are a little bit late to the party. But we have a great chance. Listen, nothing is 100% until it's on Arsenal.com.
See,
when
you first said about it literally that 2 weeks ago, and I saw in the WhatsApp group, I was actually very cheeky and I went on to Sky Bet. And I thought, I wonder what the chances are of Sanchez signing for Arsenal. And do you know something? Even all the way up to 50-1, Arsenal weren't even mentioned as a potential suitor for him.
Wow.
So, that's
it's a thing that it kind of begs the question: what is in the know? And what is quote unquote news? If 2 weeks ago, just by listening to local stations and local beat writers that follow teams and have better connections than these major outlets do, I can tell you on a WhatsApp group, X is going to happen, or it looks like it might be happening, and nobody's in the UK has picked it up yet.
No, it's
as far as outlets are concerned. I'm not going to say people because, as we all know, this came from a certain person. But it's just very the lines between in the know journalism and just common sense has been blurred so much that a Guillaume Balog and the like could look kind of silly saying the things that they have. I retweeted the other day a tweet that I had from 2011 about the Cesc clauses. And they were bang on from day one, even before he moved. And I got slated for how many years now? 3 years about that tweet and those clauses.
But John, you're a plastic football fan.
And they turned out to be right. Listen, I've been wrong, just as but I've been more right than wrong. And it isn't rocket science. It's just listening to local news and doing correct translations and that kind of stuff. So, listen, do we have a chance? Absolutely. I think that this summer is going to be very, very good for us. At the end of the day, let's just hope that certain movements don't take credit for something that was coming anyway.
No. Right then, we shall draw a line under that one. And the last bit of this podcast, literally in the last couple of minutes, because we're not going to do shout-outs today because we've overrun a little bit. is the next round fixtures, and I want to go to each of you, and I want a scoreline on each of the fixtures. So we'll start with Kris, then go to John, then go to French John, and I want a scoreline for France v Germany. Kris.
France 2, Germany 1.
Ooh, John.
Germany 2, France 1.
Very good. And French John.
1-1, and Germany will win in overtime.
Very good.
Extra time.
I think France will win that one 1-0. Brazil v Colombia. Kris.
Brazil 3, Colombia 1.
Ooh. John.
Colombia 3, Brazil 1.
Ooh. And French John.
Colombia 1, Brazil 0.
And I'm going Colombia 2, Brazil 1. Argentina v Belgium. Kris.
Argentina 2, Belgium 0.
John.
Belgium 1, Argentina 0.
French John.
0-0.
With the winner going...
Belgium penalty.
Oh, he likes the Belgians.
Yeah, I do.
you like the Belgians. And finally, Netherlands v Costa Rica. Kris.
Netherlands 3, Costa Rica 1.
John.
1-1. Extra time, Costa Rica on penalties.
Fantastic. And finally, French John.
2-2, and Netherlands on penalty.
And I'm going to go Costa Rica will win 1-0. Just to be controversial. So all that's really left then is to thank you boys for joining me tonight. I'm going to be picked up by the aliens sometime after I've had my evening dump. So thank you very much, fellas.
Thanks for coming back and hanging out with us for a little bit, Kim.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I will be back probably within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, John.
Yes, John. Thank you, John. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland World Cup podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Nanu. Chicky monkey.
Norwegian Kris at the World Cup. We're at a fan fest in Salvador watching the late stages of Uruguay against Colombia. I found another Arsenal fan. Your name is?
Danny Masters.
And you're from?
England. Sheffield.
Whereabouts? Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you become an Arsenal fan if you're from Sheffield?
I was born in Stoke Newington. I lived the first couple of years of my life there, so holding on to that Arsenal spirit like that,
Good. And what are you doing here at the World Cup?
Hey, I was working here for the first few weeks, but now I'm here enjoying the actual World Cup atmosphere,
Yeah. And who were you working? Tell the people who you're working for.
I was working for FIFA.com, sort of writing for them, journalists and that.
Yeah. Okay. And you're Gooner, obviously. So, tell me what you think we need to. What do we need to do in the summer?
We obviously need a striker, and like. Hello. No, we obviously need a striker. It would, Balotelli's been thrown around a lot. I could never really see that happening. Benzema would be lovely, but I can't imagine that Real are really going to let him go. But someone in that sort of state. Having seen Chile earlier, Sanchez would be an absolute dream. Just for throwing up there and versatility across the front three would be great. But for me, two players that I've seen now that from an Arsenal perspective are achievable. Sergio Aurier for Cote d'Ivoire, right back. He's the one filling for Sanya, obviously. Yeah. He's looked top class, 21. You get him under 10 million probably if you get on him now. And then Mohamed Besic for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Again, 21, defensive midfielder. Looks a real talent, something for the future.
Why can't you see Balotelli coming to the Arsenal then? Going back to the first player you mentioned.
But he doesn't seem like a Wenger player. He's not got that clearness of mind. Unless Wenger really, I don't want to say arrogantly, but feels he is the man who can tame Balotelli. I don't see why you would pay that much money unless Puma are leaning on him. But unless that's the case. unless that's the case, I don't see why he would go with Balotelli personally. You know, he's obviously pretty much persona non grata at AC Milan for what is coming out from there, but. Yeah. It doesn't quite fit the Wenger mould, you know.
Well, you had these people talking last summer about Suarez, and Suarez, love him or hate him, mostly hate him. And but a lot of people were saying that Wenger was going to be the kind of father figure to make him into the player that he could be. Well, player, okay, but the person he could be. Yeah. But Balotelli, I think Balotelli's more of a case of he needs a father figure more than anyone.
Yeah, no, I guess it's a pretty similar point. I think most of the arguments against Suarez last year fell along a pretty similar lines, you know. Like, listen, Balotelli was still only 23. He's an absolute talent, you know. Like the individual talent that's there is top class, but you know, it's always going to be a risk. Or whether you're going to, considering that Ozil is where we sort of really throw money at. It's not necessarily sort of performed so far. I think you can't judge before end of a second season for anyone coming to the Premier League. But yeah, no, but if we're going to be saying similar-ish money about you know, maybe pushing 30 mil, you know, it's a risk. It's like character is a risk, let alone whether he fits the team.
Yeah, right. So where are we going to finish this season then? Like early doors.
Early, like, you know. I think we're still. If we can get automatic Champions League third, that's great. You know, I think anything more than that it feels a little bit pipe dream. You know, with Van Gaal coming in for Man U, feels like the kind of guy who actually what Man U needs. Mourinho second season where he's actually going to have his team. Liverpool are going to push on. City, you know, got second season under Pellegrini. You know, it all looks tough. It all looks tough. If you get third, that's a dream. Fourth, I'm happy.
So last year when we were top of the league for 128 days, you still thought the third, or what? You know, were you getting carried away, or?
Nah, we got a slim squad. You know, like, you know, like you saw Giroud towards the end. He was absolutely legless by the end of it. You know, and I think that was a complete factor of the way our squad's built. You know, like to be fair, depth wise, we've looked better than we have done. You know, with the fact that. And the fact we got Rosicky in that can come in, you know, maybe we'll look to sort of bridge that gap towards the end of the season, but it's still not the strength in depth of, you know, all the three above us, certainly. You know, like, well, Liverpool, you know, mate, they were fortunate with injuries, maybe only lost Sturridge for a few weeks, but like City and Chelsea is nowhere near the depth, you know, so it's never going to last.
What's your next game then in the World Cup? You got
next game? I'm hoping to get something for the Belgium USA here in Salvador. Hope for that, but which, you know, could be a really good game. You know, like Belgium haven't been quite on it as the team sheet would suggest, but you know, there's a hell of a lot of talent there. There's many teams that have not performed in the group stage and kicked on it as when it really matters and brought a lot to it. Whereas USA, you know, the names aren't there, but you know, they've been consistent. They got a strong team ethic. You know, Klinsmann brought some interesting to them, you know, and quarterfinals would be an absolute dream for them as well, you know. So if they can get through that's a win from their perspective. They've hit the mark now already, so it's sort of win-win for them. Yeah.
And last question, can we find you on Twitter? What's your Twitter name?
It's at Danny Masters for Twitter. Yeah, simple as that.
Cool. Well, I interrupted you pulling a Brazilian girl, so I'm gonna let you get on with it. Thanks for chatting to us.
Yeah, nice one, man. Cheers.
Norwegian Kris in the World Cup. I'm here with
Sonny from Brisbane, Australia.
Nice to meet you, Sonny. And what are you doing here at the World Cup?
We came as a group of boys, a boys' trip to basically watch the World Cup.
Yeah. Have you seen any Australia games?
No. So we kind of were lucky enough. We saw 2 games at Rio, 2 games in Recife, and then just came to Salvador basically to get some of the atmosphere.
Yeah. And where are we now?
We are in Salvador, in Bahia State, in Brazil.
Yeah. At the Fan Fest, watching the Brazil-Chile game. 0-0, 5 minutes gone. In a Fan Fest with loads of Brazilians, loads of gringos, loads of everything. But you're wearing an Arsenal t-shirt.
I am.
How do you come to be an Arsenal fan?
Well, it started when I was a really young fellow, growing up in country Australia. My brother was a Manchester United fan, and younger brother, so United were playing Arsenal, and I thought, I'm not supporting United, and from there became an Arsenal fan. Quite dormant for a number of years until I actually moved to a bigger city, lots of football, so that was kind of mid-90s, and since then been a very, very strong Arsenal supporter.
And what does it mean to support the Arsenal in Australia? What's the reality? What's your reality?
Well, quite difficult, because actually there aren't that many relative numbers of Arsenal supporters. The majority seem to be Liverpool and United supporters. More recently, Chelsea supporters, maybe I would like to say a bit more plastic fans.
Of course.
But nonetheless, it's always good to be a little bit different. Lots of rivalry, lots of banter.
Yeah.
Great.
And this summer, what do you think? What do you want this summer? We were talking about it earlier, but tell the listeners what you want to see this summer.
Well, from an Arsenal perspective, I would love to see Arsenal strengthen their squad somewhat.
Somewhat or a lot?
Oh, a fair bit. I mean, I think there are some key positions where I'd like to see them spend some of the money that we keep hearing is available. I mean, we understood the lean times before with the new stadium, but I think now to try and keep up with some of the other rivals, I think we need to spend some money on some good players.
Specifically, what positions?
Well, for me, I think we need to have some extra striking capabilities. Whether they bring Joel Campbell back, whether that will be enough to help Giroud somewhat. I think we need a strong defensive midfielder and some central defenders. We need a spine again.
Yeah.
So,
okay, nothing original there, but it's a very good way of putting it. Needing a spine, that's a good way of putting it. Solid centre half. Well, we got a decent centre half pairing.
But we need some depth.
Yeah,
I think.
Of course. Good. And are you on Twitter? Do you use Twitter?
No, I don't.
No, we won't find you on Twitter then.
No,
but
unfortunately
we'll
not.
stay in touch another way.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers, man.